board of directors. He had a very similar experience to some of these people in college he's going to tell you all about. He is one of the nicest, most productive people in the atheist movement, and he's going to be moderating this panel. It's a real treat for all of us. Please welcome Evan Clark.
All right. So just real quick, if you missed my intro from the other day, my name's Evan Clark. But I went to California Lutheran University in Thousand Oaks, California. My freshman year, I got together with a good friend of mine named Sam, and we started talking about starting a club on our campus. Cal Lutheran is Lutheran, as Jesse pointed out and spent some time on yesterday. We are ELCA Lutheran, which is the liberal of the three Lutheran types in the U.S. And we actually had a very supportive, amazing experience. And from there, we were able to completely shape our campus and work with people I never thought I'd be working with, and gave me the opportunity to be involved in an organization like the SSA. We have 4 incredible people today that will be on this panel that have had similar and far crazier experiences than I did, and I hope you help me in welcoming our panelists. All right, so I'm going to have them introduce themselves because I am not as exciting as JT or Jesse. So let's go down the line. We'll just pass the mic around. Start with your name, what school you attend, what year in school you are, and your favorite Pixar movie.
Hi, I'm Justin Bakula. I'm currently attending Marywood University, which is a Catholic school in Scranton, Pennsylvania. For undergraduate, I attended King's College, which is another Catholic institution in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I tried to start secular student alliance groups, and I was denied on both fronts, as it was against the mission statement of the colleges. I'm currently a first-year student at Marywood. Pixar. I'll go with Toy Story 3.
I'm Brandon King. I go to the University of Dayton. I went there for my undergrad, and I'm there for my master's right now. So that would make me a 6-year student. It's a Catholic university. What else? We need. Yeah, we got declined, but we're in the process of getting recognized right now. So hopefully we'll be recognized by the end of the year, but that's yet to be seen. My favorite Pixar movie, The Incredibles.
All right, I am Harrison Hopkins. I just finished my first year at Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina. I started my group there my first semester, and we got accepted quite fast. We were done in like the 2nd month of school. So, and I guess my favorite Pixar movie is WALL-E.
Hi, I'm Andrew Tripp. I'm a rising senior at DePaul University in Chicago, Illinois. If Evan's group was the very first religious campus SSA, I think we were the 2nd or 3rd. But I think I have a very different experience from everybody else up here because DePaul might be Catholic, might be the largest Catholic school in the nation, but it's barely deserves the name. So it's really a rather funny story. But my favorite Pixar movie is Up.
Here, you can hold on to the mic, and then we'll work our way backwards to answer this question. I'm sure you get asked this a lot, and you're all going to need to learn how to answer this question because you will be asked it for the rest of your life if you wear the title of atheism or non-religion. Why are you attending, or have you attended, a religious university?
Big reason is scholarship money. Just to be honest, they gave me a rather nice deal on all that. Also, DePaul just is very, very unique as far as campuses go. It's right in the middle of, right in really the beating heart of Chicago. We have 2 campuses, one in Lincoln Park, one in the Loop, the downtown area. And so it's a university that's very, very connected with the surroundings. I'm a city kid. I grew up in New York City. I wanted to check out Chicago, have family there, have a lot of friends there. So its location was a huge draw.
For me, again, they gave me a lot of money to attend because I'm local, and they give you like to them. So that really colored my, or made me choose them over all of my others that didn't offer me any money. So.
I wanted a school that was, I was afraid of change, so I just picked a school that was a lot like my high school, and now 6 years later, I'm ready for some more change. So, but now they pay me to go there, so I mean that's the perk of being a grad student, I guess.
I went to King's College in Pennsylvania as a theist. After my second year of college, I deconverted after taking some philosophy courses and going to some philosophy meetings on campus. They were very appealing because of scholarship money, location, and for Marywood University, I attended there because of location and because of money and financial issues. I can't necessarily move outside of the state. I also have sort of a love-hate relationship with northeastern Pennsylvania because I'm an atheist activist there. I get involved in a lot of church-state disputes and issues, so I want to stay in the area and continue.
Great. All right, so we'll go back down the other way. What inspired you to start an SSA, or a secular club, on your campus?
At King's College, where I went for undergraduate, I wanted to start a secular student alliance group because I just realized I was an atheist after deconverting, so I wanted to meet like-minded individuals and have an educational group on campus that can also provide community for people. At Marywood University, it was the same issue. As an atheist going into a religious college, I'm well aware that there are like-minded people, and I'd like to connect with them and meet some new friends.
Yeah, for me it was the community. A religious campus can be a lonely place if you're an atheist, and there is a clear need for a secular community. I mean, yeah, there needs to be a group for secular students to meet, and we want to be a support group for those students.
I didn't know about the Secular Student Alliance until after I had accepted to attend Presbyterian College. And I found out about it when, as some of you may know, I challenged prayer at my high school graduation. And that's when I got introduced to all of the secular organizations, and I figured, oh, well, this actually seems like it would be really useful, especially considering that we're down here in the South and everybody seems to think that as atheists we like worship the devil or something. So I really did it to try to clear up any misconceptions and just, again, just try to start a good community on where there isn't one.
At DePaul, as I mentioned, Catholic, but not really. So basically, throughout my first quarter at DePaul, I found more and more and more that, okay, there's a couple crosses on buildings. The guy in charge is a priest. We can't distribute, official organizations of the university can't distribute contraception. But other than that, we're really not Catholic. I mean, the most active group on campus then was Interfaith. The UMA, United Muslims Moving Ahead, is huge. Hillel's big. There were groups at DePaul for pretty much every single faith group. And I started talking to people, found out that I wasn't the only atheist, and I said, okay, maybe I should see if we can do this. So I was put in contact with the SSA by Hemant Mehta, and rolled on from there.
All right, so how did you get started? You had the concept that you wanted to start this club. You started organizing. What happened? What was next? How did your university react?
Yeah, so I read Hemant's blog. I knew he was then finishing up his master's degree at DePaul. So I sent him an email and said, do you know any faculty who would be interested in advising this, or anybody else at DePaul? And so he sent me to Liz Liddell, who was already in contact with another student and a faculty member who were in the process of organizing, and I jumped on board, and so the three of us carried on with that. So we submitted the issue was with the CAD thing for us. So it was October 2009 when we started organizing, but in order to do the registration as a student group, you have to agree to a code of conduct. I believe the second point of which is exhibiting the Catholic and Vincentian nature and values of DePaul University. And we said, okay, it's probably nothing, but we should really check this out and see what the hell this means. So we emailed the head of student life, asked for a meeting, clarification, and if there was a clarification, to get it in writing. It took us from October. We were not in that meeting until January. Probably not. I mean, I have no basis for a claim that it was because we were an atheist group trying to form. Probably just the nature of the bureaucracy at our university, which is rather formidable. So in January, after several missed meetings on their part, we got the meeting, have a nice little memo telling us exactly what Catholic and mid-century values are. They're secular with a nice little, I guess, rosary bead or white collar on them, and then in February we had our first meeting. So that's February 2010.
I actually started working on getting my group formed before I even arrived on campus. I attended the CFI Student Leadership Conference last year, and pretty much as soon as I left that, I was on the phone and talking to people at the school. And I've ended up with my academic advisor. When I told her about it, said that she was completely willing to be the faculty advisor for the group. I started talking to the Dean of Religious and Spiritual Life, and she was on board with supporting us. The head of the religious department wrote the letter of recommendation for our group. And really, we didn't have any problems once we started. And, the only problem was once we finally got to go up in front of student government to ask to be officially recognized was one nay vote, and the person asked, how does this fit in with the mission of the college to glorify God, or to promote Christian values? And for that, I just responded that Christian values really are not exclusive to Christianity, unless you want to include belief in God, which obviously I don't want to, so.
So mine got started the last semester of my undergrad, and I went to campus ministry, actually, for an advisor, and I figured that, I mean, we're not a religious group, but to have an ally in campus ministry just so that we have that dialogue between theists and non-theists, which doesn't exist on campus. That was the reason that we went to them first. And from there, the first person that we talked to, they denied us just outright, and I wasn't satisfied with the reasoning behind it. And so it ended up with a long back and forth, which I will get into tomorrow if you show up for my talk. Yeah, it's more time. But yeah, we're still not recognized, but we do meet on campus. They are okay with that. But yeah, it's a long story. Too much to go into here.
In undergraduate, when I wanted to start a secular student alliance group, I simply posted on the college forum and promoted the idea through my own blog. And after some students found out about this, I started to get a lot of hate mail, specifically from the Knights of Columbus group on campus. And when I pitched my idea for our club, I said, well, there is a Knights of Columbus group on campus, and interestingly enough, under the school's rules, college groups can't discriminate on the basis of age, gender, or religion, and the Knights of Columbus do all three. So you're going to allow that club to exist, but yet we can't have a club for non-religious people. That seems to be quite a problem. So there was a lot of backlash for simply proposing the idea, in which a coworker of mine actually screamed in my face and saying, why don't you just leave this college? This is so rude and disrespectful. And I said, well, I don't understand why it's disrespectful for me to be who I am. And having a club like this could be an educational community group for people who are interested, and even for religious people. So the administration was giving me a lot of issues, claiming that the Secular Student Alliance was going to evangelize on campus. And I found this to be quite odd, considering the Knights of Columbus group doesn't do that. Then the objection was, oh, well, the Secular Student Alliance is allied with pro-choice groups. Well, okay, so what? And they talk about diversity on campus, and apparently it has an asterisk on it, that if we don't like your diversity, we can't have you here. So all the excuses came in. Eventually they had a closed door meeting in which the administration allegedly voted on the issue. I wasn't invited to the meeting, I couldn't defend the group, and the group was rejected because, quote, it was against the mission statement of the college to have a group. In graduate school, I started a Facebook group, I posted about it on my own website, and the problem there was that it was against the mission statement. Again, although the mission statement talked about humanistic values, being welcome of persons of all faith traditions or none, and I actually had a defense meeting in which I got to propose a defense for the group, and I was told that we're not ready for this yet, that we don't find that there's a good reason to have a group like this on campus, that they don't think there are enough atheists on campus to justify a group like this. And I said, well, I think the climate is oppressive and people aren't willing to step out. So if you recognize a group like this, I think we can get ready with the dialogue. So I brought up DePaul, and they said, oh, well, we're just a small university. We're not ready for that yet. So the newspaper published an article about the club, and it looked really good, but the group was denied and the college looks bad. I hope they'll reconsider.
For those of you that don't know, it is legal for private religious universities to block these groups, as has happened for these two. Who've been your biggest allies when going about this? Who were the first people that helped you out or have been allies the entire time? Tell us a quick story about kind of your supporters or what's happened.
In undergraduate studies, one of my biggest supporters is a philosophy professor who came to the school as a theist, but he deconverted. And he is closeted as a philosophy teacher at a Catholic university. He's afraid to publish work. He's afraid to take a stand. He's afraid to go public in the community. And I understand. He doesn't have tenure yet, and he doesn't want to be fired or have something political happen to him. So he's waiting to get tenure. But he was very helpful behind the scenes. And I actually found someone who was willing to step up as an advisor, who was a physics professor who had tenure, and he worked very hard with me. Liz Lydell also worked hard with me. She sent multiple letters to the colleges, especially on this concern of that the Secular Student Alliance was going to come down from Ohio and evangelize on campus. So that was pretty interesting. In graduate school, there weren't too many allies or people willing to step out, although people were quite sympathetic. I had about 10 to 15 students. The LGBT group on campus invited me, but interestingly enough, after the first meeting, they threw me under the bus, claiming that I put down theists and that the group is offensive. And I was asked for them to point out one instance of me being offensive or putting down theists, and the best that the president of the organization could come up with is, you posted on Facebook, consider give up Jesus for Lent, and that's offensive. So here the LGBT group didn't even want to work with me because they wanted to live and let live or whatever the case might be. So it's been an uphill battle.
Oh gosh, there were way too many people to list. So our story, they didn't allow us to advertise on campus. And so what we said that we would do instead is go to the student newspaper. And once the student newspaper published us, there was just an outpouring of support from students who read it. A bunch of tenured faculty. Some of the untenured faculty I got, like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, keep doing what you're doing. But I can't openly support that. I got kids to feed. So there was a lot of that. From the SSA, I went to them initially after being declined. So Andy, Liz, and Jesse, I would especially like to thank them. But yeah, they played a big role in getting our message out. So those would be my biggest allies.
Like I previously mentioned, one of my biggest allies has been the Dean of Religious and Spiritual Life on campus. Her name's Dr. Perkins, and like I said, she organized a meeting with like the religion department to talk to them about the group and explain to them why she supports it, and ended up getting all of them on our side. Right now, I've talked to her a few weeks ago and asked her if she'd be willing to speak in front of SGA whenever we ask for funds for a big event we're planning. And she said she'd absolutely be willing to do that. So she's really on our side. There's also Dr. Hobby, who's the head of the religion department. And again, he wrote a letter of recommendation for our group. He does this. He does these little talks on Tuesday nights called Hobby Talks, which are basically a big Socratic discussion on just questions like we've had an entire month-long discussion on just sex in general, abortion, just really topics that you wouldn't expect to be so openly discussed on a religious campus. So he talked to his group about us, and actually that's where most of the signatures that we had to get for applying to be a registered group came from, were a bunch of Christians. So really the entire administration at the school has just been a big help with my group compared to these others.
I have to mention the SSA as well. Liz and Jesse in particular were always awesome, and will probably be awesome into eternity forever. Also, Hemant, again, he was our very first speaker. He actually came and gave a talk to us entirely for free. Actually, on the day he finished his master's at DePaul. Suzanne Kilgannon, who is our main representative in student life, was the person who got us started and has advised us on many things and has always been helpful and very supportive. Ramona Alvarez de Silva, who is the head of university ministry at DePaul, gave us a glowing endorsement. From pretty much all quarters, there's been a lot of skepticism, I guess, because I still think the first assumption of an atheist group on campus is always going to be, oh my God, they want to destroy religion. They're going to burn down the president's office with pitchforks and de-Catholicize the university. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But that's not who we are. And once the conversation starts, and once we disabused people of that notion, I mean, our reception has been mostly positive.
So once your groups were officially established or officially denied, what was the campus, what was the community reaction? Some of you made the news. Bring us into what was the sentiment?
For us, what took up a lot of the fanfare for us was the struggle with the bureaucracy. I mean, in terms of outreach, I think Hemant mentioned that we were starting. But aside from that, we didn't really have a lot of fanfare. We had, I think, about 30 people at our first meeting ever, through which most of the people who were at that meeting who have not graduated yet were still members of the group. But there wasn't a whole lot of fanfare. We took us the rest of that year and for a big part into the first quarter of the next year to start making waves, I suppose. So yeah, at first it was kind of oh, an atheist group. That's interesting. We should go there sometime. But there wasn't a big outcry or anything like that.
In the Presbyterian Church, there are like two main branches. There was PCUSA, which is the group that my school is affiliated with, and there's PCA, which is the very conservative branch. Within the PCUSA, there's this one newspaper called The Layman, which is basically those people who agree with the PCA but want to get the USA to switch over to that instead of them move over. And the Layman newspaper contacted me after they heard that the group had been established and sent me these long list of questions that started out innocently enough, but as they went on, they went more into, do you have official representation in student government? Will you be able to petition funds from the school? And it turns out, I emailed Dr. Perkins about this and asked her, who are these people? And she said, do not reply to them. Because it turned out that they were really just trying to stir up trouble. They had contacted all of the people on the Board of Trustees asking, do you know that your money's going to start funding an atheist group on campus? And they also emailed a bunch of large donors, the same thing, and it really had the potential to explode, but luckily the school itself was in complete support and issued an official response to the Layman telling them, we completely support this group and we will give them money if they ask for it because that's what they're entitled to as a student group. So really, other than that,
was denied recognition on the account of contradicting the university's mission statement. And so we were in these meetings and we wanted to know, well, okay, show us what contradicts the statement so that we could fix it, and then we'll see what we can do. And they just never gave us a straight answer. So the goal was to get to the bottom of that, and we didn't know who we would have to talk to get there. And so this whole time we're getting, so it started out with just the school paper, and then we got published on Friendly Atheist, which completely surprised me. Then the Dayton City paper picked us up, and so when I first got denied, I went to the SSA for help, and then that ended up being a huge road bump. The school didn't like that, so the SSA is an advocacy group, and they said that no, you can't do this because they're advocating secularism, and that's different than what you say this group wants to be. Like, okay, we'll forego the affiliation, but it was seen as an attack. The affiliation was seen as an attack, and so we wanted to clarify that, and eventually it got up to USA Today, Washington Post, and Inside Higher Education. So we're still working on it now, and yeah, hoping that the school will reconsider.
During my undergraduate studies, once I was declined the ability to have a group on campus, I simply just kept talking about the issue, wanted to appeal, and it kind of went nowhere. The semester ended, and interestingly enough, I got involved in a county-wide battle against a nativity scene in 2009, and I got all sorts of hate mail from lovely Christians in the area. People sent messages to my college asking for me to be expelled. They threatened to, they wanted me to no longer have financial aid from the college, so it's kind of difficult to separate the SSA group from the church-state battle. It was very nasty. And one thing I said a lot is that, well, there really is a need for a group like this because of the oppressive nature of the campus, being an atheist, and then after getting hate mail from so many people in the community, eventually being called the third most hated person in Luzerne County behind 2 judges who sold kids into slavery in a scandal that got nationwide news. Here's a reason for a group to exist, okay? Let's get serious. So that was a big brouhaha, and the college has kind of this image of doing work in the community, and the Catholic part of it I don't think is the biggest deal. Most of the teachers there see, as it seems to me, God as some sort of metaphor or moral grounding or framework or whatever happens to be the case, but they seem to have upped Catholic issues on campus. During Lent, they banned meat from being served in all the campus restaurants. And I was a worker at the restaurants, and there was sort of a hostage situation where there was a key on the freezer, and I couldn't serve meat, and here I am as a vegetarian arguing that meat should be served on campus because students want to eat that. So it's a real big issue. And after I left the undergrad school, they might have thrown a party, I'm not really sure. I also challenged the people on campus to a public "Does the Christian God Exist?" debate, but nobody wanted to take me up on that. They were happy to send the hate mail, but to have a civil discussion, they didn't want anything to do with that. So in graduate school, once the group got declined, I was featured on Friendly Atheist blog, which was really helpful. People liked the Facebook page. There was some awareness about the issues. And then following the decline of that group, there was another issue in the county that I got involved in. A local bus line had a message of "God bless America" on its buses, on the route information. This is a county bus line. I got that taken down, and some hate started to pour in again. So here's another issue of atheists facing backlash from the community. Following that, I got a threat from a bus driver who said, "Don't dare show your face on my bus." He made a national fool of himself. And following that, to raise more awareness, I figured that having the club would be, if I can project some sort of positive message, that would be helpful to the formation. So there was a perfect storm of events where Hemmett was talking on his website about putting up billboards that said things like "Atheists love puppies," or "Puppies are cute." And I went one step further. I had a billboard that simply said the word "atheists" on it. And the bus ad was called the most inoffensive bus ad ever, and it was denied. They said it was an attack on religion. It was controversial. So I think an important part is trying to have that positive image, and doing that, and not being like the pitchfork raising in the president office. I think that could be helpful. So in order to be formed, I want to stay active in the community and put a positive image out there.
I have so many questions, but we're running out of time, and I want to have an opportunity to open it up. So before we open it up to questions, my final one would be, what advice do you have for other students on religious campuses, going to religious campuses that want to start a group? What is your big piece of advice?
One thing I tried to do in both schools was to, if you will, push the diversity angle, recognizing that there are all sorts of different people on campuses. So these people should be afforded to have groups in almost all situations. So if the school talks a lot about diversity and integrating different ideas and being respectful of viewpoints, whatever that means. And they go on, so I say, well, why can't you afford the same opportunity for non-theist students? And even religious students who are interested in questioning. I think that's a good way to push forward. Another one, we talked about strategic alliances. That's important too. And I've had discussions with the theology professors, the priests, and it's been very respectful discussions. And my motto has been, attack ideas, not persons. And I think that's a good way to push forward. So if you want to start a student group, I would recommend going with those ideas.
Yeah, if your school's giving you a hard time, I would say don't try and alienate anyone. I mean, that you're under a microscope already, and just try and take the high ground with whatever you do, because if you screw up once, they're going to lock onto that, and then that's what you're going to be remembered for. So just tread carefully.
Like I said, I got known by all of the people in charge before I was even on campus, and I was meeting with them, I was going to lunch with them. I basically became friends with all of the people in charge that I could get on my side. And whenever it came to finally forming my group, that was a big deal. It helped a lot to have all of them. So really, I think that that's something that would help in really any school, is become friends with the people in charge. That way, one, they know who you are. Two, they have a face to associate with whoever they might deny. And three, they're on your side. You can get them to convince other people for you.
So I think it was 2 years ago that Jen McCrite had a talk called Edgy But Friendly, and talking about how to go about on a hostile campus. She went to Purdue, which is very, very religious. Religious area, not the university itself. But so yeah, I like to try to keep that in mind, and I don't have a lot too different to say from these guys, but especially Harrison's point is find your allies. They are probably there. Academia is a breeding ground for lovely liberal secular people. So the philosophy department, the sociology department, women's and gender studies department, the obvious science departments, these are your friends. There are people in there, go to department events, go to similarly minded groups events. Interfaith is one thing, but if you have an LGBT group, if you have a feminist group, these are your friends. We're fighting for the same things to end the same oppressions. So, I mean, just make friends. Don't go screaming about ending religion, because for lots and lots of reasons, but know your friends, be a face, edgy but friendly.
All right. Let's do a quick round of applause for these juggernauts of secular authors. I've got 10 minutes, so we'll do raise your hand. I'll call on you. If you can, try to be specific with who you're asking your question to, and we'll get right through this. We'll start with JT in the back.
This goes primarily towards Andrew and Harrison. And this is a question I think is relevant to people who aren't on religious campuses as well. Groups aren't made in a vacuum. They're more than one person. And while you guys may have the constitution to be out atheists, how do you find other atheist students? Not just help within the faculty, but other students who would join your group and who would be interested in helping you?
Advertise. I mean,
Can you advertise?
I advertise. No, we're gonna start a dad's own agency pretty soon here. But you know, flyers everywhere, different flyers everywhere. You know, we try to switch them out pretty regularly. You know, have big internet presences. You know, getting mentioned on the Friendly Atheist or having guest posts on Free Thought blogs or whatever always help. You know, just make sure, you know, do everything in your power. You know, we live in the most connected world there's ever been. You have every single way to get your name and who you are out there. So just take absolutely, you know, send up smoke signals. You know, just every avenue that's available to you, use it.
Advertise. I was lucky in that, like I said, I became friends with all the people in charge. So I got a few things that I could do that other groups couldn't do, which was advertise before I was even a group on campus. I was allowed to put flyers up and all that. Something else that I did, like you said, about an internet presence, was with the help of the SSA, I ran ads on Facebook that were extremely targeted to people with interests that were somehow related to atheism, philosophy, secularism, Richard Dawkins, just things like that, and that were all coming to Presbyterian College. And through that, I got like, seriously, maybe 20 likes on Facebook from current students and graduated students who were interested in the group. So really just get out there, get your name known, and people will come to you.
Thank you.
We have in the blue striped hair.
It's like, okay, so this, I guess, is for just like used to be like anyone who has a group officially or unofficially on campus. Andrew, I know what you're gonna say because I'm in your group, but I'm just curious, like, what were the responses of other student groups on campus to your group? Like, do you find that you're able to work well with other student groups, especially religious groups, as far as like, I know DAFT has like tried in the past to work with like interfaith and like other student groups and like co-sponsor different events, and like usually students have been pretty receptive at the call, but I'm wondering how your schools reacted.
Well, at my school, we got a lot of help from Spectrum, which is the LGBT group on campus, and they've been a big support. We go to each other's meetings. From the religious groups on campus, really came like the majority of flyer vandalism. So we had one group that would put their flyers up over ours, and that's Campus Outreach, which is basically the PCA group on the PCUSA campus. And there were just some exchanges on Facebook where, and on PC, we have a few skunks on campus. And one guy was talking about catching them and throwing them in the anti-Christian meeting. So just stupid things like that basically were the reaction.
So, yeah, the school, they denied us recognition, but we were still allowed to meet on campus, which was good. The other groups that really supported us were the LGBT group and Campus Democrats. So, like, I kind of figured that we were just like the most hated group in the administration. And we reached out to student leaders that were in charge of religious groups, and none of them really wanted to have anything to do with us, and that was kind of discouraging because, I mean, this is the exact reason that we want, there's no dialogue here. We want this dialogue to exist, and like some of the responses I got were, oh, I don't like how this thing is blown up, I don't feel comfortable saying anything about it officially. But so from religious student leaders, there was not a lot of help. But from religious students, so I remember walking through the student neighborhood on a Friday night, and somebody recognized me and just started the whole party chanting "soft." So my group's called the Society of Free Thinkers, or SOFT, and then this whole party just starts chanting "soft, soft, soft." Soft. Like, all right. I don't know. The support has come from a surprising amount of places.
In undergraduate, I put the messages out there for people to work with me, and one of the most surprising things later in my undergraduate career was the LGBT group, who couldn't even call themselves an ally club or a GSA group. They ended up calling themselves the Questions and Answers Club. I would think I would go there to play a Trivial Pursuit. So they couldn't even call themselves an LGBT group or be really open about that, so perhaps that was an issue. And going back to the Knights of Columbus again, the LGBT group actually supported the Knights of Columbus financially. They went to one of their fundraisers on campus and purchased shoes from the Knights of Columbus. And I went to one of their meetings and said, hey guys, wait a second, the Knights of Columbus puts all this money into anti-gay marriage initiatives and you're going to support that group? Oh, well, we have members from the Knights of Columbus. Oh, well, they're not all like that, and just because they're part of the organization doesn't mean any of that. So it was very difficult to find allies in the ally groups. So it seems just to be kind of this isolated thing. Some students would step up and support, but from groups it's been very difficult.
All right, let's go with Matt in the back.
So first of all, thanks for both putting the groups together and what you're doing here. And I agree, and I love the fact that we're seeing these groups, especially on religious campuses, where you can pull in people who may not otherwise have anybody to associate with. What I'm wondering, and it's kind of two parts, what portion of what you do is currently focused at education in the sense of possibly deconverting people, and what portion do you think ideally should be devoted to education?
One common criticism I get from religious people is that I'm trying to deconvert people or force people to deconvert. I'm not sure exactly what that means, because I always say, well, I'll present the information and you do what you want with that. I do blogging, I do podcasting, and people can interact with the information, and if they think it's sufficient enough to disabuse them of their faith, then that's great. But if they don't, well, then that's really on them. So when I do activism, when I am out there in the community, I try to have an educational component to what I do. If I'm just going to go out there, waving signs around and I don't know, or screaming at churches or something, I don't see that to be very productive. So when I have a message out there, it will hopefully further the conversation and get some people thinking about issues. One of the best things that happens to me is when theists come up to me and say, hey, I agree with you on the church-state issues. Hey, you're very respectful. I mean, recently I protested a religious rally. You might have heard of the Stand for Religious Freedom, and I went there with a sign, and the organizer was hugging me and saying, thanks for being here. You were really respectful. It was really nice with what you did. But if I went in there very uncivil, I think that would have been a problem.
So for our meetings, a lot of times the goal is going to be Socratic discussion, and so we want to flesh out ideas, or we want to flesh out ideas and have people learn what they can, but the goal is never to proselytize anyone. I mean, proselytization is just not at all what we want to do. So,
really, educating people is the main focus of our group. All of our big events last year were related to educating people on evolution. So, because it's a really big thing on our campus that a lot of people don't accept it as the fact that it is. And this year, our focus is educating people on what religion is doing in the South. The motto that I came up for this year is, it's asked backwards in the Bible Belt, since we're SSA at PC. So, and for that we're gonna have a month-long event where each week we have somebody coming in to speak about something else wrong in the Bible Belt, like prayer in schools, religion in government, the African American community, and religion. And I always forget the fourth one. So, so that really is the main focus of our group, is just educating people on what there is, and if we score some deconversions from that, hell yeah.
Yeah. At desk meetings and our events, the speakers we bring in, we try to cover a really wide range of intersectional issues relating to secularism, because just about everything can fall under that umbrella, and we can analyze it from a secular angle. But to the deconversion point, that's absolutely not one of my goals. I'm really, honestly, maybe a big controversy in saying this, I'm really not terribly interested in making new atheists. I'm interested primarily in not so much in what God somebody believes in. I'm interested in what they do in their day-to-day lives with their actions. If you're, at DePaul, a lot of the best activists that I know, the people doing the best social justice work, the best work in the community, are religious people. And fact of the matter, if you're doing good work, if you're working to make change, to make the world a more just, egalitarian place, you're on my side. I really don't care what you believe in, as long as you're walking the right walk.
I'm being yelled at. We unfortunately are out of time. Let's give one last round of applause for the group.